As I said in the last lesson, if your team doesn't change how it works, nobody else is going to change either. And this shift is not easy. It means asking your people to take on a very different role from that they're used to. And this transformation really involves four pillars: providing consultative services across your organization without actually owning every deliverable, creating resources like design systems and user research that others can use, enforcing standards and compliance with UX best practice, and educating colleagues so that they can apply UX principles on their own projects. And it's no surprise that some team members might push back with, well, I didn't sign up for this. Many enjoy building interfaces and being hands-on, but this new approach does help them with some of their frustrations that they've already been facing. You see, when I talk to designers about this kind of change, I highlight several key benefits that I know will resonate with them. First of all, when your team steps back from making screens, they get a seat at the big table. Instead of being brought in after decisions have already been made, they start helping shape the direction of products from day one. It's this shift from make it look pretty to help us figure out what it is that we need that most designers have secretly been hoping for. And let's be honest, the ceiling for implementers is lower than it is for strategists. When your team becomes internal consultants and educators, they develop leadership skills that open doors to senior roles. I've seen designers nearly double their salaries by making this transition. The market values those who guide others more than those who just deliver pixels. Also, instead of redesigning the same button for the 14th time, which most teams are fed up with, they get to build systems that make those repetitive tasks unnecessary. Creating design systems, research repositories, and educational resources is deeply satisfying work. It's like building a machine that keeps producing value long after you've moved on to the next challenge. And there'll be no more spending 6 weeks on a single drop-down menu with endless back and forth with stakeholders. This new approach means that your team might facilitate a workshop on Monday, review designs on Tuesday, train colleagues on Wednesday, and develop standards on Thursday. And that variety keeps things fresh and helps prevent burnout. I've noticed teams working this way seem genuinely more happy. They're solving problems rather than just implementing other people's solutions. That doesn't mean the challenge will be painless, but it does mean that there are real rewards for embracing it. Your job is to make that shift as easy as possible. And that means three key things. First of all, you've got to build their confidence and provide them with support, because the biggest hurdle for most teams is simply believing they can do it. Be there alongside them during those early workshop and training sessions and stakeholder meetings. Show them how it's done before you ask them to take the lead. Secondly, you need to be shielding them from organizational politics, because when your team shifts their role, it'll inevitably lead to complaints like, why aren't you building this for me anymore? And we need you to just make some screens, not tell us what to do. Now, your job as the leader is to absorb those questions yourself while your team gains confidence. Be that buffer that gives them space to grow into their new responsibilities without constantly having to defend themselves. And this means you're going to need to take on some of the heat, but that's part of leadership. Then you also need to help them by investing in proper training and resources, because their new role is going to demand new skills, and that's going to include facilitation, coaching, documentation, and influence without real authority. Make sure that your team has access to the resources they need. This doesn't always need to mean expensive courses. Peer mentoring, shadowing opportunities, and practice sessions can be absolutely invaluable. The key is to acknowledge that you're asking them to develop different skills and give them the time and support to do so. Also, you can't do any of this top down. You can't just force this on people. Instead, you need to invite your team to help shape what it is that they should be doing and what transformation should look like. Rather than imposing change, help them to think through and adopt the new role naturally themselves. Encourage them to imagine new possibilities by asking questions like, what would you want others to do differently if you had full control? That will help them realize that they can establish some standards that enforce those kinds of things. Or what resources or tools would you love to create for the organization? And that helps them identify opportunities for building systems and repositories that really they're quite passionate about. Then also ask them what skills they wish colleagues had that would allow collaboration to be easier, and this reveals educational initiatives that the team might lead. And finally, what work would you gladly stop doing if you could? And this clarifies which services they'd prefer to guide rather than execute on. This isn't just consultation, this is creating excitement and ownership over the future vision of your team. When people help design their own futures, they're far more likely to embrace it, even if that is challenging. And don't expect everything to change all at once. Start by ring fencing, say, 1 day a week for strategic work. Encourage lunch and learn sessions, create space for peer mentorship, and celebrate small wins. Most of all, take your team with you. If you don't, you'll be battling resistance on two fronts, inside and outside of your team. In the next lesson, we're going to look at how to democratize UX across the wider organization, turning those colleagues into active participants in this process.